This is your news source evening bulletin for today, Friday, the 14th day of May in the year 2021. I'm Gordon Mosley. Here's what we're tracking tonight. More than a year after the March 2020 elections, which saw his ouster from government, former President David Granger is speaking more about the conduct of the elections and reflecting on the aftermath, which led to the 153 days wait for the final results to be declared. During his weekly public interest television program, Mr. Granger today said the Elections Commission found itself under relentless foreign influence as it conducted the elections.
But the level of foreign influence in that period was phenomenal. I don't think we've ever seen it before. That you had ambassadors barging into meetings and getting involved in matters which normally diplomats wouldn't get involved in.
And with Guyana currently examining electoral reform, the former president, who is the leader of the People's National Congress, said the country's electoral laws must be seriously re-examined, adding that Guyanese are mature enough on their own to conduct their affairs without foreign intervention. The U.S. Embassy recently announced the start of consultations of a U.S. State Department-funded project to look at electoral reform in Guyana. On the issue of his own handling of the post-election situation in the country, Mr. Granger said, while he still believes that the elections were tainted, he was obligated to acknowledge the declaration of the chairman of the Elections Commission.
In essence, were the votes valid, and did we have credible elections? And APN AFC is stating categorically that many of the votes which were cast were not valid, that the chief elections officer had the authority to prevent invalid votes from being counted.
And Mr. Granger said the failure by the Elections Commission to compile a new voters list was responsible for many of the problems that later surfaced with the elections.
But I think the elections raised more questions than answers. It's not a simple contest between win and lose. Were the elections credible? And were the votes valid?
With the two election petitions filed after the elections now dismissed, Mr. Granger said it is now a difficult task to convince his supporters that the elections were not credible. He said that his party will do all it can to ensure that the matter is put to rest in a way that the population understands the full impact of the elections and the questionable activities that took place during the elections. The former president, who has been lambasted by many of his own supporters for not speaking up enough about the current political situation in the country, is expected to face several challenges if he decides to seek re-election as the leader of the People's National Congress, which is the largest party in the APNU-AFC coalition. More news coming up in just a moment.
Guyana, we've been through it all.
But as a people we have
weathered every storm
And risen to every challenge.
Because it is the people of Guyana
that gives it its strength.
all the people,
Regardless of race,
class or religion.
we are one people, one strength.
And now is our time. A time to rise. Together, we rise.
I'd like to encourage persons to take the vaccination. There are options in terms of which vaccine you would like to take, and at this point we are encouraging those in the senior category to take the vaccine as they are at higher risk, and we have seen a number of fatalities and persons who have suffered from complications globally and in Guyana. This is adding to a layer of protection which we would have had before from the mask, socially distancing, as well as ensuring that we wash our hands and sanitize. So I had it, really doesn't feel badly. I'm not a needles fan, really doesn't feel badly, and I would really like to encourage everyone to get vaccinated. This is the way we save lives. So save your life and save the lives of others. Get vaccinated.
Mobil 1 is more than oil. It's many oils. It transforms at the molecular level. When cold, it's thicker than honey. When hot, it's thinner than water. Mobil 1 adapts and readapts to last longer. 16,000 kilometers between oil changes. That's your engine evolved.
Sol Guyana is the authorized distributor of mobile lubricants.
At Sash Financial, we create strategies for strengthening business and personal finances while helping our clients to build sustainable wealth. Our financial and business consultancy services are uniquely tailored to ensure every client receives quality packages and optimal results. Our financial services include financial reporting and analysis, financial status assessment, internal audits, bookkeeping and records management, financial planning advice, tax returns. Our business advisory services are related to business plans, business startups, operational improvement, business management, document preparation, procedures development, efficient marketing. Call or WhatsApp us today for your free consultation on telephone number 592-665-6045. Sash Financial, strengthening businesses, building wealth.
We are legions of men standing strong, but never too proud to stoop and help someone. We must send a clear signal to all. Do right, walk in upright ways, knowing that's what being a man is all about. And ever aware that things will only get worse when good men do nothing. Stand strong, be the one to live right.
Mom, what are you doing with GPL on your list?
Child, you forgot I have to pay GPL?
You got time with GPL.
I have to keep these lights on. The customers who think in that manner and refuse to honor their obligation to GPL are obviously not playing their part in ensuring quality service delivery. So, I will continue to pay my GPL bill on time, every time.
I recognize the value of your point, Mom. You were right.
Welcome back. With the National Grade 6 Assessment Examination set for the 4th and 5th of August, the Ministry of Education, the Learning Channel, and NSERD are pooling their resources to ensure students are fully prepared. The Education Ministry today launched the NGSA Booster Programs to get students ready for their Grade 6 national examinations. The Booster Programs, which will be aired on the Learning Channel and YouTube, seeks to provide students with the requisite knowledge needed in preparation for their exams. The programs are expected to enhance the way students learn, with the lessons being broadcast on 2 media platforms. At this morning's launching, the Minister of Education, Priya Manik Chand, said the initiative was birthed by the current circumstances that have stemmed from schools being closed because of the coronavirus pandemic. She said it is not meant to replace face-to-face learning, but seals the gap that was created with the prolonged closure of schools.
This program here is being launched today. We reduced, and I say, when we looked at how we would do NGSA this year, we didn't just sit back and say, well, we've always done NGSA up to grade 6 and we're going to continue this year. We cut out grade 6 and we said we're stopping at the level of grade 5, and even then we're doing only X number of topics in grade 5. So we consolidated a curriculum, again, under the pressure of COVID, with COVID circumstances. And we made it into a 20-week curriculum.
And the Education Minister said that while in past exams, students were tested on topics covered in grade 6, the upcoming exams will cover grades 1 to 5. Special programs will be put in place to accommodate students in the far-flung interior communities who may not have access to the internet or television. The communities are expected to work along with the education officials.
In the meanwhile, this is a challenge. how do we reach those communities? We're presently doing an audit of some communities don't have a satellite and learning channel, but they have a TV. So we're looking to see how we can download, put all of this on a flash, go into the community and give them that.
All of the programs are being produced by the Learning Channel with support from teachers across the country. The ongoing fight against HIV and AIDS in Guyana got a shot in the arm today, with the U.S. government providing $1.5 million in funding to aid the country's national HIV program. The announcement came as U.S. Ambassador Sarah Ann Lynch visited the National Care and Treatment Center and made a donation as part of a U.S. government grant, which supports a long-standing partnership between the U.S. and Guyana governments in the fight against HIV. The money is expected to go towards funding various programs under the government and its agencies and civil society groups for testing, treatment, and care of HIV patients. U.S. Ambassador Sarah Ann Lynch.
It has been a remarkable partnership, one that has truly saved many lives. And so we are thrilled to be able to provide an additional $1.5 million to support the fight against HIV/AIDS in Guyana. This funding will support the Ministry of Health and civil society partners through September of 2022. It is especially timely given the COVID-19 pandemic that we're all dealing with and the strain it continues to place on the country's health system.
The ambassador also said Guyana remains a good partner in the fight since the country has made significant strides in reducing new HIV cases. With the grant, Ambassador Lynch said she hopes that the money will be targeted towards fully saving lives with treatment and to meet those affected.
Therefore, our priority must be to increase treatment coverage, aiming to ensure that everyone diagnosed with HIV/AIDS is immediately linked to life-saving treatment services. We believe strongly that services must be client-centered, meeting individuals where they are with what they need. Our PEPFAR support will help strengthen this, including for the most vulnerable populations.
And Guyana's Minister of Health, Dr. Frank Anthony, who was present during the visit, said he remains thankful for the donation made by the U.S. government. He said it will go towards a good fight against HIV.
But we see these as essential elements in this program so that, we can really move treatment and care for HIV patients forward. And so with this extension, this is really going to help us to transition over to government and global fund funding to make sure that we're capturing all the elements and to target the program in such a way that we get better yield for the dollars that we're spending.
In the past few years, Guyana has been gaining ground in the fight against HIV and AIDS, although the country has seen a slight increase in cases in the past few years. The surge in COVID-19 cases and related deaths in Guyana continued today as the Ministry of Health reported that 143 new cases were confirmed in the past 24 hours, with 2 more deaths. The current death toll stands at 335, with 36 of those deaths recorded in the past 14 days alone. Since the start of this month of May, the country has recorded more than 1,700 new cases of coronavirus. There are currently 1,805 active cases of the virus in the country, with 113 of those active cases hospitalized. It is the largest number of hospitalizations recorded since the pandemic was first reported in Guyana just over a year ago. While it is still to confirm the presence of one of the new variants of the virus in the country, the Ministry of Health remains concerned and worried about the virus spreading faster and in more communities. There is also worry that more young people are becoming seriously ill with the virus.
But we continue to monitor across the country. As you know, over the last 24 hours or so, we would have had 147 persons who tested positive. And currently we are monitoring 1,866 active cases in all the regions of our country. Of those, we have 83 persons who are right now in hospitals. And in the different regions, we have seen a number of places that we deemed as hotspots.
With the COVID numbers rising steadily over the past 2.5 months, there continues to be calls for the government to strengthen the enforcement of the COVID-19 measures before the situation worsens. The government continues to push its vaccination drive, and more people are turning out to be vaccinated. More than 35% of the population has so far received a first dose of one of the COVID vaccines. Many persons are expected to return for their second dose in the coming days. The former commissioner of the Guyana Lands and Surveys Commissioner, Trevor Ben, was back in court today where he faced a third charge of misconduct in public office related to the sale and lease of state lands by the Lands Commission while he was in charge. The latest charge alleges that as Commissioner of the Lands and Surveys Commission, Ben deliberately misconducted himself in office by selling a parcel of land to Seavon's Waste Management for $80 million. The total size of the land was just over 1 acre, and all of the money went to the state. In brief comments after leaving court, the former lands commissioner said he was interviewed about the land when he was first charged back in March in relation to another plot of land. He said based on the charge, the government is now alleging that he had no right to sell the land to Seavons. He was not required to enter a plea to the charge this morning and was released on $100,000 bail. He will make his next court appearance on the 18th of June. Back in April, Mr. Ben was charged in relation to the sale of land on Mandela Avenue and Aubrey Barker Road, South Ruimveldt. And earlier in March, he was charged for the leasing of 6 acres of state lands to an engineering company while he was commissioner of the Lands and Surveys Commission. Ben said he believes that the charges are all trumped up and meant to embarrass him. He said there was no fraud committed and it was the state that benefited from all of the transactions. While the Guyana Police Force has reportedly made a decision to reduce the number of crime reports it releases to the media on a daily basis, as concern continues to mount about the ongoing crime problem in the country. For 2 straight days, there were no crime reports released by the Corporate Communications Department of the police force. The department only restarted releasing reports this afternoon after a number of high-level meetings. Questions by journalists earlier today about the development have gone mostly unanswered, with the head of the PR unit, Mark Ramatar, only indicating that the unit has not received any instructions to stop the release of the daily crime reports. However, when questioned about the reports not being released over the past few days, Mr. Ramatar decided to remain quiet. News source has learned from senior officers of the force that the directive was handed down by the Commissioner of Police, Nigel Hoppy, to reduce the number of crime reports being released to the media daily. Efforts to contact Mr. Hoppy for a comment were unsuccessful. Senior police sources have indicated to news source that the directive to cut back on the number of crime reports released to the media was prompted by complaints from the crime chief, who heads the Criminal Investigations Department. The crime chief, Wendell Blanham, who has also been dodging the media on updates on major crimes being investigated, has reportedly expressed some reservations about the media being updated daily on the crime situation in the country. The Corporate Communications Department would usually release several crime reports in the morning, with another release in the evening time. Additional crime reports would usually be released during the course of the day.
Fuel it up and drive, super 95. Fuel it up and drive, super 95. Protect your fuel system, boy. High mileage and performance, boy.
Guy Oil Super 95 gasoline gives you more reasons to drive and is available at 56 service stations nationwide. For affordable price, high performance, and high mileage, choose Guy Oil's Super 95 gasoline.
Fuel it up and drive.
Greetings to my Guyanese brothers and sisters. I just had my vaccination for COVID and I'm encouraging each and every one of our Guyanese here to take it. It is very safe and you don't have to worry. So we are encouraging each and every one of you to take your vaccination because we want to move away this deadly virus from Guyana. Take your family and your friends so that we can be safe.
Across the region tonight, in Barbados, a new COVID-19 directive will take effect from the 18th of May and run until the 7th of June, and there will be an ease in restrictions for more groups. The Prime Minister of Barbados, Mia Mottley, announced Emergency Management Directive number 10 will continue from the previous one, and among the changes will be the physical distancing required for religious worship will decrease from 6 feet to 3, and fraternal organizations, private or social clubs, civic associations, and political organizations may resume meetings of their membership provided that protocols of mask wearing, sanitization, and physical distancing are strictly followed. The maximum number of people who may attend, regardless of the capacity of the meeting place, is limited to 100, unless special exemption is granted. In all other respects, all of the prohibitions contained in the previous directive relating to parties and the like will continue to be enforced. The drive-in and cinemas may open every day except to the existing agreed protocols, and photographers and videographers will be allowed to operate every day also in Barbados. In Colombia, anti-government protests in the country entered their third week on Wednesday. The demonstrations were sparked by a government proposal to increase taxes as millions of people have seen their income shrink due to COVID. But they have continued for days even after the government withdrew its proposed tax plan. Protest leaders say their demands now go much further and include calls for a basic income scheme, free tuition at public universities, and the reform of the police force. 42 people have so far been killed during the protests, according to the Human Rights Association in Colombia. The BBC reports that there is a lot of discontent at the national level, and it goes further than the issue of taxes. It's caused by all the injustices that have been taking place across the country, according to the BBC. And finally tonight, international news. Violent clashes between Israeli troops and Palestinians have spread across much of the occupied West Bank, following days of hostility in Gaza. At least 10 Palestinians are reported to have died in the West Bank unrest, while hundreds have been injured. Israeli forces used tear gas, rubber bullets, and live fire as Palestinians threw petrol bombs. At least 122 people have also been killed in Gaza, and 8 have died in Israel since fighting began on Monday. Many towns and cities in the occupied West Bank were convulsed by angry protests earlier today, marking a widening of the conflict which has led to continued international calls for calm. And that's your News Source Evening Bulletin for tonight. I'm Gordon Mosley, wishing you a pleasant and safe weekend.